Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal Jupiter in the first house of the self. Jupiter is a benevolent influence, and it is associated with growth opportunities and the higher mind and positivity, things like that. And the first house is the house of the body, the persona. And so as it being the persona, it's really more about how other people perceive you. And I would say on a more superficial level, because once they get to know you, the sun and the moon comes out more. The moon, because this is kind of the habitual reactivity of the individual, their emotional state, their preferences, whatever you call their desires. And the sun is what the person aspires to become. And that can really play into the kind of interests that they have, the goals that they have. And this is one of the reasons why we place such an importance on the sun sign. And yes, if I had to choose, I would say definitely look at somebody's sun sign, but there are many influences. And where Jupiter is in your chart, even though Jupiter is not a personal planet, it can indicate where you find good fortune, okay? And this is with you as an individual, the way that you carry yourself. So this can make somebody very charismatic. Before I continue, I just want to give a shout out to the site that I compiled this list from, and it's advancedastrology.com. There's a hyphen after advanced. And this is paraphrasing, and I'm adding my own stuff to it. So it's not to say that what I'm saying is completely what they said, but just I feel that it's important to honor those places where you're getting information. So it doesn't matter what your sun sign is. Let's say your sun sign is Capricorn or Cancer. I'm picking sun signs that I think are more serious. Although Cancers are a lot of comedians who are Cancers. Let's just say Capricorn. And you have Jupiter in the first house. You're going to be more gregarious. You're going to be more larger than life, if you will. Jupiter is such a large planet because Jupiter is associated with that kind of cheerful quality, and that you're imbued with that. And so even let's say your rising sign is Capricorn. I'm not picking on Capricorn. I'm trying to think of a sign that is very either nondescript or very serious. So maybe even like Virgo. It's more nondescript. It's not really flashy and extroverted and things like that. Cancer rising, maybe a little bit timid sometimes. And this makes you much more maybe extroverted, definitely positive, upbeat. And other people respond very favorably to that, which makes sense. People like others who come across in a very positive way. One of the things about you is that you believe in yourself, and that is everything. So that can lend itself to having confidence and going after what you want in life. Now, Jupiter is considered an influence of luck. And as I continue this journey in life, I'm beginning to think more and more that luck is not something that just drops in your lap, that you make your own luck, and you make it by what you choose to allow in your life and what you choose to disallow in your life. And a person who has Jupiter in the first house is going to naturally gravitate towards the higher minded things in life because you are a naturally ethical person and you are concerned with self-improvement and self-growth, learning. Now, these kinds of attitudes are not only wholesome, but they're very helpful in achieving one's goals. When somebody is, for the most part, positive and they're always looking to improve themselves, it's only natural that they're going to attract growth opportunities. Compare that to somebody who always is looking on the dark side, always is immersed in negative behaviors and allowing into their consciousness negative influences. You have to, in order to grow a garden that has a lot of yield, you have to feed it with fertilizer that is viable. And that's kind of what growth is all about, is about constantly learning, constantly believing that there's more to learn, there's more to improve upon oneself or within oneself. And let me see what other things. And what I put is you believe in yourself and you believe in life. And what I mean by that, because I also put that you're very philosophical. To believe in life means to have a philosophy of life. It means that you're intentional about life. You're not just existing. And people who hear that might say, well, I'm not just existing, I'm doing things. But sometimes people are on automatic and they're just kind of going through the motions. They might be doing things, but they're not connected through their consciousness to what they're doing. They could do it without even having a brain probably, because there's no real energy being put into it from the person's essence. It's just on the surface. And so when you're philosophical, it means that you're really questioning the meaning of life and you're valuing life. So you think to yourself, why am I here? What is the ultimate purpose? And so you become purposeful because you actually engage that issue. I also put down here, you are lucky, you are fortunate. I don't know if they said that on the site. That's a given. They always talk about things like that. Now, I said you make your own luck, but how I would see this in terms of kind of, if you want to call it random good luck, which it really, to me, isn't, but we'll just pretend, is if somebody is born into, let's say, a very violent area. It might be in the inner city, it might be in a war zone. And some inner cities feel like war zones too, but I mean some kind of a place where there are lack of resources, there is a lot of violence, a lot of crime, and the person is born into that environment, but maybe they're born into a family that's very tight-knit and very supportive. Or maybe they're born into an environment where they happen to have a school which is really inspiring. So there's some bright spot, there's something that nourishes that child and gives them the sense that there's more to life than whatever it is that they're experiencing. As a matter of fact, I mean, this is a very big deal. And I think this is so true because I was born in Chicago. I was born on the west side of Chicago. And I didn't grow up there. I grew up near there, but not actually there. But there are people, there are children in Chicago who are growing up and they don't necessarily, travel more than maybe a couple of square miles around where they live. Maybe they don't go downtown and see the skyscrapers or go into some kind of rural things because they just don't have those kind of resources, opportunities. I don't even know if they have field trips these days like we used to have. That was, I think, one of the purposes of field trips was to expand the vision of children who might not get to do that. So it's very easy to get tunnel vision if you don't see beyond very great expanse in your community. And the same thing can happen in a rural area too. If you don't ever go anywhere else, that's all you know. And I would say that somebody with Jupiter in the first house, if they're born in the middle of nowhere, they grow up in the middle of nowhere, they're going to probably be the one to go to a city when they get to be old enough, like for college. And that could be like a real desire. Or maybe they want to travel the world. And Jupiter is a ruler of the ninth house, and it's associated with long distance travel. This is the whole point of Jupiter, is expansion in all different areas. Or the person who is in the inner city, same thing. Now, remember too that people who are in these environments where there are a lot of limitations may be surrounded by others who also have a limited scope. And this person, you, can be the kind of person who sees beyond those limitations, and you can be quite inspirational to other people as a result. Whether it's people in your immediate environment who don't see things the way that you do, or future students, if you're a teacher, this placement could be definitely somebody who ends up becoming a teacher. And you may even choose to, I feel like you might even choose to work in those environments like you experience because you want to deliberately engage students who have these outer circumstances. And so you might push for those field trips or those, even visiting other countries. You never know. I mean, sometimes that can happen as well. And you might be a big champion of that. So you have great communication skills. You're adaptable. And this is, the reason this is true is because the ninth house that Jupiter rules, well, first of all, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is a mutable sign, so it tends to be flexible. But just on its own, talking about Jupiter, it deals with foreign people, foreign countries, and people who are open to differences are going to be very adaptable. You know, you may know people, and this may make you laugh. Say, I'm a sun in Sagittarius, so I'm laughing from that angle, and you can laugh from having Jupiter in the first house. People who you talk about some type of food that you've eaten that's not really common, maybe it's a part of a foreign cuisine, and they go, oh, they're kind of like, I don't know if I'd like that. It's something that's different, It's not what I'm used to, and it's almost like a phobia or something. And there are people like that they're afraid of things that are different, and you embrace them. you're honest to a fault, and that's part of the ethical nature, but it can, result in blunt speech. Hopefully I'm laughing, because I'm, as a sun in Sagittarius, it's very similar. And sometimes people take offense. One thing, obviously, when you're a child and you're not aware of how people get offended by things, the honesty can feel brutal to the other person. But in time, you note these reactions that people are giving, and you might tone it down, become more diplomatic. But one thing that I want to say, which I think is so important, especially in this day and age, is that honesty is not respected, to me a lot of the time. And it's actually threatening to a lot of people. When you make statements that are factually true, people will challenge them because they don't want to hear the truth. We're lied to so much that people are comfortable in those lies. And you may be that truth, how do you say it? I was going to say the truth seeker, yeah, but the person who, I know it's on the tip of my tongue, the person who kind of lays it all out, and then you're the lightning rod, where people want to attack you because you're the one who is telling it like it is. And it's important not to use the truth as a weapon. So, yes, of course, there may be some things about a particular person that you feel are holding them back, and maybe they involve certain behaviors that you think are dysfunctional within that person, and you may be tempted to just like lay it all out for that person. But unless they asked for your opinion, it's important not to, be intrusive. And one of the things that is true about Sag, and it's probably true about Jupiter in this house, is like the moralism, the preachiness, which can happen because the person feels like they know what's best for everyone else in the world. And there might be great wisdom there. Jupiter is associated with wisdom. But the problem is that wisdom can only be, given to those people who are seeking it. And seeking it specifically from you. You can't impose wisdom on people, because that becomes very obnoxious, and people don't like those who just try to lay it down on them. So let's talk about some of the other challenges of this position. You can have an overly optimistic tendency and promise the moon and stars to people because you're hoping that you can. You have to, when you give estimates on what you're going to do, you have to be more conservative and take into account that things may not go smoothly. You want to give the best possible estimate, and it doesn't always work that way. And then you end up maybe disappointing the other person. You're a very generous person. And it's not the type of generosity that is with strings attached. There's just this, like an overflowing cup. And it's like the person never feels that sense of lack. Again, if you have, I'm going to pick on Capricorn. I think of Capricorn because Capricorns can be very successful, but they also have these qualities where they tend to be kind of miserly, and they tend to be rather saturnine or a little bit, I would say cynical in a sense, not sunny, overly serious. But if they have this placement, this can make them more generous, more sunny, more cheerful, I mean. And, oh yeah, well, did I say, about gilding the lily? That's how I put it. Exaggerating. And this is just that kind of thing of like the planet Jupiter larger than life and really, overestimating things, and that's how the perception becomes. It's just like, it's not necessarily that the person is trying to be dishonest about something or trying to be grandiose in order to boost them up, make them seem better. They may just perceive life that way, or you may just perceive life that way. But yeah, I mean, I think that you will find overall that you're really a person who experiences a lot of alignment in life. And especially if you keep it going, you generate that over and over again. The people who don't rest on their laurels, that can be one of the downsides to this placement, is that the person may be this is how I put it, maybe a slacker if Saturn is not strong. If Saturn is afflicted in your chart, I'm sure there could be other things. And the reason for this is that Jupiter kind of like, it's not about laziness, it's about just believing that they're going to just manifest something instantly, instead of that they're going to have to work for something. And that's just like, again, I think that's being overly optimistic about how life works, how things go. Another thing too is the health can be good. Now remember, this is the first house can be the body, but there could be a tendency to put on weight. So you might have to monitor that, because Jupiter expands everything it touches. And sometimes when people have a Jupiter transit through the first house, they might gain weight too. But the thing is that you're very optimistic about your body, meaning that even if you were to gain weight, you believe that you have the power to change that. Some people do not feel capable of improving themselves physically. And that's why they kind of let themselves go, or they don't get disciplined about any of these things, because they feel like, what's the use? It's like beyond my control. And you might feel very positive about you being able to affect change in your body if you need to. Okay, well, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I do a lot of astrological readings where I'm doing things just like this and looking at these different placements. It's really interesting because there's so much going on, with the chart. And it's like everybody's chart is different. Everybody's cosmic blueprint is different. So I'm at rainamoonastrology.com. The link is below. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.